Good afternoon, guys. First of all, very excited about going down to South Bend to play in this game. It's a rivalry game for us. Been involved in this football game probably since '97 as an assistant coach, and there's been some great games with Notre Dame, and I think it all goes back to the '66 game certainly, and even maybe before that. So this has been a traditional type rivalry, and we've embraced that as we've had so many of our other rivalries. I think when you look at them right now, good football team, very well coached football team. Offensively, quarterback makes it happen. Two quarterbacks actually make it happen for them, but they've chosen to go in one direction there. I think Kaiser gives you that guy that can stand in the pocket and be a traditional type passer, but at the same time can create. And you get a quarterback like that doing those type of things, very dangerous, has good rhythm to his throws, gets out of trouble, big, physical type guy. Offensive line does a nice job. Receivers catch the ball well. Tailbacks run it effectively. A lot of different things that you see defensively on that side of the ball. They return 3 starters. Been hit with some injuries a little bit, but at the same time, I think very good players, and they'll move them around and create different fronts and varying a lot of different things coverage-wise and things of that nature. So I'll take some questions and go from there.
Mark, Dave Warner has been open about maybe something he learned from the Alabama game was going on the attack on the perimeter more with stout defenses. Is this game more predicated on your team going on the attack than what Notre Dame does?
Well, I think as an offense, we have to take advantage of the things that we see relative to weaknesses or things that we can exploit. That's what everybody does. But at the same time, we got to press the issue. I don't think there's any question about that, and do what we do. Do what we do has been, win the possession time, not turn it over, win the turnover battle, convert on third downs, be effectively running the football, all those things. But there's a combination of things all involved in being successful there. And again, it'll be a great challenge. I'm sure they'll be ready to play. Should be a great football game.
Mark, I know you obviously get Ed Davis back, and there's some talk about whether he's going to be ready, but he's been practicing for a little bit now. Have you seen what you've needed to see from him physically in terms of getting back, and I guess kind of how far is he from really contributing again?
I think the question, and I mentioned it in there on the Talkback show, is Ed at 90% or 95%, or is he at 100% or 83%, whatever he is? Where's he at relative to the other guys that are playing? We've got a deep linebacker situation. We got good players. Do I expect him to play? I expect him to play. How much he plays will be determined by how he comes yet this week. And I know we're only 4 days away or so, but we need to see him today in Tuesday's practice, because last Tuesday's practice as opposed to this Tuesday's practice is a week removed. So too early to tell, I guess. Big thing I would say.
Mark, how did you guys spend your bye week?
Practicing. We've had one game, I guess. I've been reminded by one of our coaches, we had one game in 6 weeks since coming here on August 5th, once we play. So hopefully practice makes perfect.
Any particular point of emphasis you had there? Was it all Notre Dame specific?
Well, we're not going to sit there and say it's all everything. We're going to work on ourselves. We're going to work on what we do, but we're getting ready for our next moment. So that's the challenge all the time. The biggest thing for us is to make sure that we came out of last week as if we had played a game. That to me was very important, but yet stay healthy. In other words, maintain your conditioning level that we had after getting ready for 4 weeks for our first football game. So to do that, we had to push our guys, and that's what we did.
Mark, last time that Michigan State played Notre Dame, your current group of seniors were just freshmen. So have you had them speak to the younger guys who've never played against the Irish and never played in South Bend, just to discuss how big of a rivalry this is and how much this game means?
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit, and we'll talk about that more this week in our upperclassmen, our seniors that were there. They'll give them a little bit of a feeling for what the place is about, and our coaches certainly, our coaching staff has pretty much stayed intact, so we understand that as well. But at the end of the day, when you get on the field, everything sort of I think, dissipates and goes away, and you start playing football. And that's the way it's always been, and that's the way it'll be again, I'm sure. Good football team down there to play, great challenge for us, and we've got to live up and measure up to that challenge.
Mark, you saw in their first game, Notre Dame struggled against a two-quarterback approach. One's more mobile, one that's more pocket passer. Is that something you're looking to exploit?
We got to do everything we can to exploit all avenues, I guess, relative to playing them. So we've watched the film carefully.
Mark, looking back at that 2013 game, and there was no secret that Brian went deep on you guys down the side.
20 times.
Counted them up. How do you coach up the defensive backs at that point? Is it anything different when you start to see that in the game, or is it something that you guys just kind of know the scheme you play?
Well, from my perspective, we made plays. You know, flags came out a little bit, but from my perspective, we made plays on the ball, and sometimes, you know, those are bang-bang type situations where, you know, you're trying to, you know, everybody's trying to do the right thing, so I'm not looking backwards. But at the same time, you know, regardless of what happens, you need to move on and play the next play. And I think that's the most important thing. I think we did do a good job of that. You know, we held them to 17 points. That was, I think it was 17. That was a positive. So we need to continue to play like we do. We need to be who we are, too. We can't let somebody take us out of who we are.
Mark, you guys last couple of years had a lot of success in these big games on the national stage. How much is that kind of a step for your younger players to get that first one and learn how to do that in that environment?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You know, we need to be prepared for that, and that's you know, these are areas of growth for our young players, or moments of growth, I guess I would say, where, you know, you play in this type of game, you know, you move past that, and now you're ready to play in these games more often. So that'll be something for our young players, the players who have not played in such a game. Most of our guys, our starters, and a lot of our players have already played to that level of game, you know, because we've played in big games these last number of years as well as 13. But I do think for our young players that haven't played, you know, which maybe our freshmen would be the ones, you know, or our redshirt freshmen, that is something that they're going to have to, you know, they'll have to get over that hurdle. But like I said, once the game starts, they're through that moment, and they got to rise up from there.
Mark, you talked a little bit about the 1966 game that ended in a tie, and I'm just curious, as a coach, I mean, are you grateful to be coaching in an era where you do have overtime? I mean, can you imagine what it would be like to have to choose whether to settle for a tie or at the end of regulation?
Yeah, I'm glad the overtime rule's in effect, no question.
Do you remember what it was like? I guess you were an assistant before they made that change. Was it something that was pretty well welcomed among coaches? Or
how long has it been? I'm not even sure.
Mid-90s, 95, 96.
Yeah. I don't even remember that, actually. So
I won't do a two-parter, but I have two quick questions about the history. About the history. You'll never remember the first one. Are you old enough to have watched the 10-10 tie?
Yeah.
Were you a kid then, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do remember.
Where were you? What were you doing?
I was 10.
And you watched the game?
Yeah. I think I did.
Yeah.
As far as I know. I think I did.
But you weren't a Spartan then, right?
No, I wasn't a Spartan then. I was 10.
Well, we all have.
I was just a happy kid. I didn't have all these pressures on me.
More recently, do you think, there's a lot of big games in this series, but do you think Little Giants in recent history changed the nature of this rivalry at all?
That's tough for me to say. I thought it was a great football game. First of all, when you go back and you relive that game a little bit, it was a great football game. It went back and forth throughout the entire game. And there were a lot of other things that happened in that football game, big plays, both sides of the ball, you know, both teams. I just think it was I guess it was another ending, another moment that this one went in our direction. So I think it was exciting. I can't say that. That's why you guys do what you do.
Mark, what do you still have to learn about your football team, and do you think you'll find out a lot about that this week?
Well, we got to learn a lot about our football team. I don't think there's any question about that. You know, we've only played one game. As I said, you know, we've been working for 6 weeks, one game, so you don't know a lot about it. You know that there's going to be growth. You know, you have some people that are going to fail. Some people are going to be successful in this game. I mean, that's the nature of it. I mean, that's what football is. But you've got to be able to get back up in either case and play the next play, and then you also have to move forward and learn to adapt and handle those situations. So that's a part of game experience, and we're going to get that. And I think we have a good football team. I think we've got players. So that remains to be seen. And that's why every year when people say so-and-so's preseason number this or number that, you know, at the end of the season, it sort of all bears out. That's what we have to do. That's why we play these games. And at the end of the year, we look and say, well, we were this. So, but we're looking forward to this opportunity. And again, we've waited. I don't think there's anybody in our program that wanted to sit last weekend. So, you know, I anticipate our guys being ready to go, enthusiastic, and it'll be fun to go down there. You know, there'll be 10,000, 15,000 Spartan fans there as well. Always has been, and that makes it exciting as well.
Mark, how have you used that 66 team, that season, as an example over the years for your program of the standard that had been set here in the past?
I think it just the way we've used it is really just to connect to that era of football, and that's 50 years ago. But it connects us, and once you've been someplace, you know, once a program has been to a certain place, I guess, in history, then it can always return to that place. So that's what I feel. It can always cycle back. So nothing more than getting to know the players who've played there, you know, the Baba Pizzas and Gene Washingtons and Clinton Jones and these guys. But the game has changed. It's different players, different people, different coaches. So that's about the extent of it. But I think you can always look back and relate to it and say that you are part of it because you met the people that played in it. So you are a part of it. But that's probably the extent of it.
Mark, you talk about your players and how anxious they are to play in this game against Notre Dame. After week one, you had played 2 freshmen. You said you weren't going to play anybody until they were ready to play. They've had a week of practice. Has any of them impressed you enough to maybe get a shot at getting on the field?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they have. So we'll see if they do, because it's a long week yet, and they have to be able to handle the game plan, and we can't put guys in the game that just to put them in there. But I do think, with that being the question being answered, I do think there's some guys that may end up getting an opportunity to play some, just because I think players need to grow. I think that's a big part of college football. You know, we don't pick up guys on rosters and say, okay, the guy's played 5 years for this team, let's bring him in. You know, it's not the NFL or you have a guy for 9 years playing for you. We have young players that need to grow as they move forward, and the only way they grow is by giving them experiences. So we're trying to do that, but at the same time, we've got a lot of other players that need to play as well, redshirt freshmen that need to play as well. So they need to gain that type of experience too, or a sophomore in his first few games. So we've got depth on this football team, and so there's a lot. So it's very difficult to even pick who the travelers are, really. I mean, we've got some good players that we'll have to leave back here, but you know, that's what happens when you've been successful for a while. I think that's a natural occurrence.
You and Brian Kelly share a past in the University of Cincinnati. Brian obviously followed you. How did your time at UC shape you as a coach and what you wanted to do, and you've been able to bring here to Michigan State? And how do you think it's shaped Brian?
Well, for me, you know, that was my first head coaching job. You know, I left Ohio State as the defensive coordinator, and I went there, so there were a lot of things that I was doing for the first time, you know, in those 3 years to build a program. And we had to get a staff together, and, you know, many of those people on that staff are still with us. So that was a beginning for me, and how it shaped us as a program. I think we brought a lot of what we started to do at Cincinnati at UC here with us, and I think we brought a program with us and a foundation with us when we came here of who we were. We knew who we were, we knew each other, and we all came together, and I think that proved to be a faster acceleration for this program. And as far as Coach Kelly, as far as Brian, he had been a head coach. I think he knew what he wanted, and so he was, I can't really speak to that. He was being successful on his end, but I think he already knew. He'd been a head coach for years before, so I think his program, what he wanted, what he expected was a little bit more in place maybe.
Mark, when you look at Tyler going into Notre Dame, Kirk and Connor, neither one of them got the win at Notre Dame. What kind of things does he have to, I guess, mentally prepare himself for down there that maybe is a little different than Ohio State, or did that get him mentally ready for this kind of a game?
Well, as I remember, actually, what I remember is Kirk playing in 2009 and almost engineering a Joe Montana type drive down the field, as I remember, and he was getting heavily criticized, and I said something about him not being Willie off the pickle boat, and all of a sudden I got like a case of pickles. So, I think he had success down there, and then I think Connor Cook had some success down there as well, and we had an opportunity to win that football game in the last minutes as well. But we didn't win it, neither one of them. So things happen, but in both cases, both those quarterbacks really grew from their experience down there playing in that football game. And that's all I can ever ask is you go in, you compete, you do your very best, you compete, expect to win, play to win, and grow from it. And that's the thing I was talking about earlier. You need to grow from your experiences, and I think both those guys really did grow after that, after their performances down there, and I thought their performances were solid.
Mark, the rivalry goes back to 1897. I know you're not old enough to remember that. Would you call this, rather than a bitter rivalry, more of a respectful rivalry? I'll
let you know after this weekend, I guess. But I think that there are things that happened in this rivalry that lend to the emergence of Michigan State as being a major football player in the country. And that was because people got together, whether it was John Hanna and people down in Notre Dame got together and they made it happen. So from that point of view, I think there will always be a respect from the people of Michigan State in place because of that aspect, I would think. Yeah, I think that our defensive line is going to have to come to play, going to have to pressure the quarterback. We're going to have to stop the run, do those type of things, and obviously Malik will be a catalyst and involved in helping to do that. So all of our players, every single one of our players are going to have their hands full when we go down there. That's the nature of this, and that they're going to have to play to a high level. I don't think we ever stop growing. I don't think we ever stop. We are always ready to take that next step, and that's what you have to do as a competitor. Be prepared to do that. So, he's still a relatively young player. When you really look at it, he's going into his third year. He's not coming out of his third year. We got 12 or 13 games here, 12 games or 13 games to go. So you're a different player. All of our players will be different players at the end of this year than they were early on. But he's got an enormous amount of ability, and I expect him to play very well down there and play with a lot of effort.
I don't know if you were recruiting Saturday, but on your day off, did you see the Central Michigan finish?
I did.
What's your thoughts?
Great touch. Cooper Rush, great throw, but really alert play by the receiver. Shooting it back as he threw back, and amazing play. I found out later about all the other extenuating circumstances, which is disappointing, but things happen. I did not watch it live. I watched another game.
Mark, can you talk a little bit about what you saw on tape from the offensive line, and is 6 about the number you expect, or you think you can go deeper in this game, and do you need to go deeper with a bigger defensive front?
That remains to be seen, whether we've got to go deeper or not. We want to play as many guys as we can that are game ready. So we'll see. As far as our offensive line, I thought they played well this last game, and we'll need to play well again. We'll need to protect the quarterback and run the football effectively. It starts up front. Always does.
Mark, I want to ask you real quick. After seeing that first game, your impressions, special team wise, I know Mike missed his only attempt, but there's a new snapper and all that. Overall, what did you see from that group from that first game?
Well, we're 2 weeks in the rears on that one. But I thought, as I remember, we kicked the ball out of bounds in the first kickoff, which wasn't good. After that, we played pretty well. That punt, we punted extremely well. Dropped 2 inside the 10 at a 58-yarder. Kickoff return, we missed 2 seams, which could have went to the house. Punt return, we missed 1 seam that could have went to the house. Missed a field goal. Does that about cover it? I thought we played hard, and we got a lot of people playing. Okay, guys, thanks again.